The first sound is water. It is still dark. A young woman kneels at a stone basin cut into the side of the mountain and fills a clay jar. The water is cold enough to ache in her fingers. Below her, cloud has filled the whole valley like milk poured into a bowl. She was not born here. One day, 5 centuries from now, her bones will say so. It is somewhere near the year 1490. This is Machu Picchu. It has about 40 years left. You know what it looks like. Everyone does. It is the most photographed ruin on Earth, and almost none of those photographs tell you what it was for. So ask the harder thing. What was it actually like to live here, to wake in this place, work in it, grow old in it, and then walk away from it? The answer is not a fortress, not a lost city, not a last refuge. It is stranger than any of those, and it changes what we think we understand about how a world ends. The ridge sits 2,430 meters above the sea, roughly 80 kilometers northwest of Cusco, strung like a saddle between 2 peaks. The Urubamba River runs some 450 meters below, and on a still night you can hear it from the plazas. Around 200 buildings stand on a slope steep enough to kill a man who stumbles. At its fullest, perhaps 750 people lived here. Most were not nobility. They were Yanacona, permanent retainers, attached to this place for life. Nearly 2,000 millimeters of rain falls on this ridge every year, most of it inside 7 months. Hold on to that number. Almost everything remarkable about Machu Picchu is an answer to water. And the dates have moved. In 2021, Richard Berger's team at Yale ran accelerator mass spectrometry on the remains of 26 people buried here. The site was occupied from about 1420 until about 1530. 110 years. That is the entire life of Machu Picchu, less than 2 long human lifetimes. It was built for one man, Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui, 9th ruler of the Inca, the one who turned a valley kingdom into the largest empire the Americas ever produced. In 1990, the historian John Rowe published his reading of a Spanish land document from 1568 in which the descendants of Pachacuti listed the properties of their ancestor. One of them was called Picchu, not a citadel, not a temple complex, a royal estate, a country house. The granite was quarried on the ridge itself. Men shaped it by striking stone against stone, hour after hour, and the sound that filled this valley for decades was not the ring of iron, but a dull, patient knocking and gray dust settling on wet skin. The walls lean inward about 5 degrees off vertical, which is why they are still standing after roughly 6 centuries of earthquakes. Then there is the part you cannot see. Kenneth Wright, an American hydraulic engineer, spent years measuring this site rather than admiring it. He found a spring on the northern slope at 2,458 meters. He found the canal that serves it, 749 meters of cut stone channel, laid at a grade of about 3%, feeding 16 fountains arranged in sequence down a stone stair. The first fountain stood beside the emperor's own residence. The last one served everybody else. He counted roughly 130 drainage outlets built into walls, floors, and terraces. And he reached a conclusion that should be better known than it is. Somewhere near 60% of the total construction effort at Machu Picchu lies underground. Foundations, buried rock fill, layers of gravel and sand under every terrace, doing nothing but moving water away. The city in your photographs is the smaller half of the city. Now go back to the woman at the fountain. She is not a name we know. She is what the evidence describes. In 2023, a team including Lucy Salazar, Richard Berger, and Jason Nesbitt published the genomes of 34 people buried in the caves and rock overhangs around this ridge. They had come from across the empire, the Pacific coast, the high Altiplano, the far north, and the Amazon lowlands on the other side of the mountains. Almost none of them were related to each other. They arrived here as individuals, not as families or villages. They ate maize, potatoes, and dried camelid meat, and most of it was carried up from somewhere else. The farm terraces here cover only about 4.9 hectares, nowhere near enough to feed the household. In the wet season, from November through March, when the clouds sat on the ridge for weeks and everything leather went green with mold, the staff shrank to a few hundred. Then, the world beyond the mountains came apart. Smallpox reached the Andes around 1524, moving ahead of the men who brought it. The Emperor Huayna Capac died of it, along with his heir, and the empire fell into a civil war between his sons Huáscar and Atahualpa. In November of 1532, Francisco Pizarro walked into Caramarca with 168 men. None of them ever took this place. There is no burn layer here. No Spanish church was raised over its temple, the way one was raised over the Sun Temple in Cusco. Machu Picchu was not conquered. It was simply left. Here's the thing that took scholars decades to say plainly. Pachacuti died in about 1471. Under Inca inheritance, the dead emperor kept everything he owned. His mummified body was not a corpse in their understanding. It remained a person. It was dressed, fed, carried to festivals, spoken to, consulted on decisions. His estate did not pass to his successor. It passed to his panaca, the corporation of his descendants whose function was to maintain him. So, for 60 years after his heart stopped, hundreds of people climbed an 80-kilometer road with maize and firewood on their backs. They cleared 130 drains before each rainy season. They kept 16 fountains running in the correct order, the emperor's first, for a man who was no longer breathing. Call it the dead king's household. Machu Picchu was never abandoned in the way we picture abandonment. It was defunded. When the center broke, plague, then war, then strangers sitting in the capital, the household simply stopped receiving. And a house that exists only to serve one person has nothing left to do when the person, and then the memory of the obligation, is gone. For 100 years we searched these stones for the catastrophe. There was never a catastrophe. We still do this. The will that moves money for 40 years after a signature, the trust in a dead person's name, the grave visited on the same date each year, the room in the house that nobody redecorates because it is still, in some way, occupied. Every society on Earth assigns real labor to people who no longer exist. We call it respect, or duty, or law, and we almost never notice that it is the same instinct that kept those fountains running. And there is the other inheritance. Every city you have ever lived in is 60% invisible. Drains, foundations, buried channels, and people whose entire working life is spent stopping water from doing what water does. It holds perfectly, right up until nobody is being paid to keep it holding. The stones are still standing, and we read that as survival. It isn't. Machu Picchu is intact because nobody ever wanted it badly enough to destroy it. It outlasted the empire that built it, the plague that emptied it, and the conquest that ignored it. And it did all of that by ceasing to matter. That is the quiet lesson under the postcard. Worlds do not usually end the way we imagine them ending. Most worlds do not end in fire. They end the way this one did, with the walls still standing, the water still running, and no one left whose job it was to come back.